The special meeting for the City Commission of January 23rd, 2025 will come to order. Please join me in silencing your cell phones. Madam Assistant City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine?
Here.
Commissioner McGurk?
Here.
Commissioner Ashley?
Here.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Present.
Mayor Cleveland?
Here.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so very much. We will now open the floor to public participation. If there's any member of the public that wishes to speak to the commission, please come forward and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. It's a monologue, not a dialogue, and so we will entertain no questions, but we'll be happy to hear what you have to say. For the record, name and address for the record. I see Kelly McQuillan, Madam City Clerk.
Yes, Kelly McQuillan, City Clerk, 2021 India Palm, Edgewater. Mayor and Commissioners, I figured I'd take this time to address you quickly since you're having the meeting about me, so it's awkward if I'm here, so Sharon's taking over for that. But I read the report. Unfortunately, I expected the context in which it was presented to you based upon the nature of my complaints. What I did not expect was the determination not to investigate some of my concerns. On page 27, when the city granted my request that the scope of the outside investigation would include my claims against the city on page 2. So as some of you know, I've been a broken record for about 5 years, and I've constantly communicated to our former city manager that we have an organization that's fractured because the line in between the executive and administrative sides of the house has been blurred. When that happens, it can create constant chaos, which I believe is the root of all the problems that have ensued. I've also believed that because of this, it's created a high turnover, and mostly I believed that most of the complaints, or all of them, could have and should have been handled by our former city manager so they wouldn't escalate to this point. I wanted you to know I love my career and I love serving the city and citizens moving forward with or without me. I hope that you will consider looking at the bigger picture versus the narrowed scope of focus which was presented to you from the investigator. I don't mind being a scapegoat if the outcome is for the greater good and initiates positive change, but I do mind being one for the sake of political expediency. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments.
You're welcome.
Anyone else for public participation? Seeing none, public participation is now closed. We'll go to this old business. As a reminder to the commission, August of 2024, we commissioned an investigation. We've just been in receipt of the investigation, and I'd like the city attorney to set up our protocol from this point to the point when we start doing our deliberation.
Yeah, so I think we've covered it between public comment and the opening remarks. We commissioned this investigation back in the fall of 24. We just received it earlier today. We have our Labor Council here with us today who will kind of walk you through the report and talk about whether there's any temporary measures that need to be addressed while this matter is working its way through the process.
Thank you. I
this is
think that's
J.K.
your
Keller,
cue,
sorry.
Mr. Keller, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
J.K. Keller.
So
our
J.K.,
labor-
this is over to you, and I know you're going to have some assessments. Would you like us to stop you along the way or wait till the end?
I'm happy with however you would like to handle it. You can wait till the end or stop me. The only thing I'd ask is that if you stop me, the audio is cutting in and out a little bit, especially if I'm talking. So if you are going to stop me, if you could just hold up your hand and get my attention, that way I can stop myself.
I'll recognize members of the commission and stop you if that is the need. Otherwise, I'll wait to the end.
Very good. I don't think I've met most of you yet, but as was already announced, my name's J.K. Keller, and if you're wondering why I go by J.K., it's because my full name's John Walter Keller IV. So I've gone by my initials my whole life. Everything that was said is accurate. There was a investigation that was commissioned by the council. That investigation was performed by another labor and employment attorney by the name of Vicki Sproats. She's an expert in this field, just like I am, and has been doing this for many years. She is not affiliated with my law firm in any way. In fact, she's actually based out of Fort Myers. I've never worked with Ms. Sproats before. Her final report did come in very recently, and I'll give you a short summary of what was in that report. It's a total of 68 pages, so I'm going to give the Cliff Notes version. Obviously, it would take a long time to go through all 68 pages. The investigation initially began as just an investigation into allegations that Ms. McQuillan had engaged in some misconduct. That scope was actually expanded during the investigation. And the reason is Ms. McQuillan had some complaints of her own. So in fairness to both sides, Ms. Sproats investigated those complaints the same as she investigated the complaints against Ms. McQuillan. As to the findings, starting with the complaints that Ms. McQuillan made, first, Ms. McQuillan accused Sharon Taylor Harding of various policy violations and misconduct. Ms. McQuillan also accused Shay McCurdy of some policy violations and disrespectful behavior. And finally, Ms. McQuillan accused the former city manager, Khalid, as well as Ron Niebert and Heather Kidd of violating various city policies and being disrespectful. After interviewing many witnesses and reviewing many documents, Ms. Sproats determined that there was not evidence to support any of the allegations made against by Ms. McQuillan against any of the folks I just named. So all of those allegations were unsubstantiated. Turning to the allegations of misconduct by Ms. McQuillan, there were a number of findings that Ms. McQuillan did engage in misconduct. First, Ms. Sproats found that Ms. McQuillan violated city policy by refusing to allow her employees to go directly to human resources. Specifically, Ms. Sproats found evidence that Ms. McQuillan instructed her subordinates that even if they were to have complaints that Ms. McQuillan herself engaged in some sort of discriminatory or otherwise improper behavior, they were not permitted to go to human resources. They were instead directed to go directly to Ms. McQuillan. Ms. Sproats found that that was a violation of city policy. In addition, it's axiomatic that the entire purpose of the Human Resources Department is to allow employees to approach human resources when they have those types of complaints or concerns. Additionally, Ms. Sproats found that Ms. McQuillan retaliated against one of her subordinates who made a good faith report to Human Resources that she believed Ms. McQuillan was discriminating against her. Ms. Sproats found that in retaliation for this subordinate submitting that report, Ms. McQuillan did not allow that subordinate to go to various conferences. Additionally, I would note that Ms. Sproats also found that Ms. McQuillan actually drafted a total of 5 disciplinary notices directed at that subordinate, none of which were served formally or placed formally in the file. And the reason is Ms. McQuillan apparently had a conversation with Human Resources about disciplining this subordinate. And Human Resources advised against it and informed Ms. McQuillan it would be retaliatory or serve as a basis for a retaliation claim to discipline this subordinate under those circumstances. So I say that to make the point that there was potentially additional retaliation that would have occurred if not for Human Resources intervening and stopping it. Additionally, Ms. Sproats found that Ms. McQuillan's behavior created a hostile work environment for not just her subordinates, but all of the city employees located on the first floor of City Hall. That was not a finding that it was a discriminatory hostile work environment or that it necessarily violated city policy. It was more of a practical finding that Ms. McQuillan's behavior and conduct created a hostile work environment. And that that's set forth in detail in the 68-page report, but some of the main bases for that finding were the fact that Ms. McQuillan, for example, placed a sign that tried to restrict access within City Hall to various city employees, that Ms. McQuillan engaged in verbal confrontations with various city employees that were not necessarily her subordinates. It also had to do with the retaliation I just discussed, as well as the direction that her subordinates could not go to human resources or other supervisors within the city, and other things. And finally, and probably most seriously, at least from my perspective as a labor and employment attorney, is that Ms. Rhodes found that Ms. McQuillan attempted to interfere with her investigation by directly confronting one of her subordinates who was a witness to this investigation off-duty, off-city property, and cross-examining him essentially about the investigation and what his testimony might be. And there was testimony from that witness that this confrontation, not surprisingly, made him very uncomfortable. And like I said, from my perspective, that's probably the most serious offense because maintaining the integrity of these types of investigations is paramount. Now, in terms of potential recommendations or potential action that should be taken today, I anticipate that at some point this may be placed on an agenda for the council to vote as to what, if anything, happens with Ms. McQuillan's employment with the city. But that won't happen today as I understand it. Consequently, my recommendation is that Ms. McQuillan be placed on paid administrative leave. It's not a punitive measure. I don't make that suggestion to be punitive. Again, it would be paid, so it would not adversely affect Ms. McQuillan, at least not in the sense that she would be financially deprived in any way. The reason I make that recommendation is not because I personally know Ms. McQuillan. I don't know her, and it's not because I have any personal belief that she would or would not do anything. However, in my experience, when you have investigations like this that come out and there is potential pending discipline that could result from it, it is a good move, both in terms of protecting the safety of the employer as well as the employees and also the potentially affected employee to place them on paid administrative leave and reduce their access or restrict their access to all employer property, both physical property in person as well as access to electronic property, because you don't want any interference that could affect the integrity of the process. You also want to avoid any sort of negative confrontations between employees based on perceived outcomes that haven't even been voted on yet. So for that reason, I recommend that she be placed on paid administrative leave. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Thank you, Attorney Keller, for that. Anybody with a question that you can think of at this juncture? Commissioner Perrine.
For how long and what's the outcome? Is this just until we vote, or, I mean, how long are you recommending this paid admin leave be?
You're cutting out just a little bit.
Question is the duration, JK. How long do you think this will take, and how long should the administrative paid leave be in place?
I recommend the paid administrative leave be in place until a decision is made with respect to whether Ms. McQuillan will be disciplined for this misconduct, or a decision is made as to whether her employment will continue. As the council is probably aware, her contract with the city allows for it to be terminated either with cause or without cause. So that is on the table if there's a vote, as well as the potential for discipline. So my recommendation is keep her on paid administrative leave until that vote can occur.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Commissioner McGurk.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. JK, thank you for the summary on this report. I guess my only question was, yeah, it was, you know, for the duration, and then of course, what is the next step if we do put her on administrative leave? What is our next step? What's the best way to handle that going forward?
Is that yours, JK, or Carrie's?
Probably a tag team. We'll start with JK, but ultimately, this matter is pending until, as JK started, it's either disciplinary action or consideration of termination. Either of those items would have to occur at a meeting that's been, have more time to be noticed and all of those things.
So these were, okay, so any action we take or discuss will be done in an open noticed meeting?
Correct. After this report just came in today. You guys have a lot to digest. So we're just addressing like temporary things that probably should happen for the city's best interest, as long as Ms. McQuillan's and the other employees. So that's why we're here today.
Okay, and I'm going to make an assumption and say that we should not be in contact with Ms. McQuillan until we make a decision?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Any further advice, Mr. Keller?
I would just add that I completely agree with Ms. Avalone that there should be no contact with Ms. McQuillan prior to the vote taking place in order to maintain the integrity of the process. And also, as part of her being on paid administrative leave, she should be instructed not to have contact with anyone else at the city except for perhaps human resources if there's some logistics that need to be worked out. But otherwise, she should not have any contact with any city employees.
Thank you very much. Any questions, Vice Mayor? Commissioner Ashley.
I do have a question. What would be the nature of discipline if that was decided upon?
Did you hear that, Mr. Keller? The question is, what are the variety of choices of discipline? I think you've said discipline or dismissal, but is there anything further you can add to that?
Sure. I believe it's within the council's discretion to impose some sort of discipline. That could be up to a suspension. I will add the caveat that when it comes time to vote on this, those are questions we could address then, and I would review the contract more closely and be prepared to answer any of those types of questions. But ultimately, when these sorts of things happen, what needs to be done and what will be done before the meeting on this issue is I will get with Human Resources and I will discuss whether there has been any sort of misconduct like this that has occurred in the past, and if so, what has the discipline been? Because the idea is to keep discipline consistent with what past practices have been. That way everyone is treated in a fair and just manner. Then based on that, I anticipate making a recommendation to the council about what would be appropriate based on what has happened in the past, as well as based on the nature of the violations that have occurred. So to more succinctly answer your question, I think the answer is discipline could range from a written warning or an oral counseling, which I believe would be the lowest available under policy, all the way up to and including termination. Additionally, the council could vote to simply terminate the contract without cause, as is contemplated in the contract, without even making a decision about whether there should be discipline imposed for this.
Anything else? Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And there's actually a variety of choices. Just to be fair and impartial, there's an option for nothing to happen. Is that right?
I'm sorry, sir, can you
Is there an
repeat that
option
once
for
more?
no discipline?
That is correct.
Okay, just want to make sure that I'm predisposing that discipline's mandatory and necessary and et cetera. So just to set the picture straight. Anything else? Any follow-up there, Mr. Keller?
No, sir.
Just stand by online if you don't mind and watch us go through this. Any follow-up from you, ma'am? Nothing from the city attorney?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. City Manager?
Nothing from me, sir.
Okay. No more questions for Mr. Keller. Is there any discussion amongst ourselves that would be in order now before entertaining a motion to place the city clerk on paid admin leave until this matter has been resolved? Seeing none, Chair would entertain a motion to place the city clerk on administrative paid leave until the matter has been further resolved. Is there a motion?
I move.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Ashley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Is there any new business or other business? Yes, ma'am, Madam City Attorney.
With that action, you'll want to make an appointment to serve in that role in the while this is pending.
Make a motion to appoint Sharon Taylor Harding as the interim city clerk.
Have a motion for
Second.
interim city clerk and a second. Any discussion on that? So let's make sure we get this right. Sharon's the assistant city clerk. She'll serve as the interim city clerk until such time as this is resolved with all privileges, authority, and responsibility of the city clerk.
Yes, and just the question of the pay, whether you'll pay for that position, the range. Heather might be able to fine tune that in terms of pay options.
Do we have to make that determination right now?
It would be direction for this HR.
You should consider it at this time. Typically, in our policy, if anyone serves in working up or working out of class, typically they receive the bottom of the pay grade or 5%, whichever is ever higher. You have that option to make any decision that you'd like and change that in any way. I can access quickly those numbers if you need those to make a decision, or if you want to go with the standard of the 5% or the bottom of the pay grade.
Any questions for the HR director? Yes,
Well, I
ma'am.
think it's important that we're consistent. If that is, what has been done, then we need to stick with that.
Yeah, I agree. If there's a policy generally for that, then I agree with it. I think we should follow that.
Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion to use standard procedure for adjusting pay for the interim city clerk.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. That's very good. Anything further? Any new business that you'd like to, since we're all here? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Keller. Appreciate it.
Thank you.